Hi everybody, Lori here. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to be sharing a couple of projects using some of the new Waffle Flower January release. And I'm going to be featuring several fun products that stood out to me that kind of have book theme. This is the open book die, and it's the coolest thing. Wait till I show you. Maybe you've seen the sneak peeks. And then the script texture stamp set. I actually don't end up using this one, but I loved it. And I think it works great with these products. Here is the open book coloring stencil. And then lastly, the open book floral stencil. So I'm going to be using a mixture of these products. So starting with the open book die, this one here is just so cool. So what it does is create a little open book. And it's like a book on a card. So I'm going to die cut this first out of some Stardust cardstock. I'll be using mainly Concord 9th cardstock. And so this, I'm going to mainly use this for the book outer, like the binding. Is that what you call it? And then for the inner, this is some, what is this, like vintage cream cardstock by Paper Tray Ink. It's got little speckles in it. And I'm using some of this scripty words that came in the open book die. And you die cut that right into your book pages. There's also a small little paragraph, but I'm going to use the full sheet of scripty words. And it kind of etches it into that speckledy cream, vintage cream cardstock. Okay, so when I remove this, you could see how the words get etched in there. So I'm going to do it on the right side so that it'll look like there's words on both sides of the book. Take this back off camera, run it through my Anna Griffin Impress. Now, one thing I noticed is that the fresh etching is very deep, and the one I just ran through that was empty kind of got flattened out on the left. So I'm going to run this back through just with nothing in it, and it'll kind of flatten out the words just a smidge, make it a little bit less intense. And I kind of like that. That was a happy little accident. Now I'm taking my little snips here and snipping off like the outer binding and just leaving the pages. So you have to do a little bit of sergy, but it's very, very easy to do. And then that way your pages can lay on top of that Stardust base and it gives you that contrast. Now to give it a little extra, little zhuzh, I'm taking some antique linen distress ink, a little mini, and this is a rainbow splash brush, and just going around the edges, kind of like, you know, an aged book, how it might get a little discolored around the edges, and then I'll do a little bit down the center, just to give a bit of depth and vintage vibe. We're going for antique vintage vibe. I don't know. Happy New Year. How is everyone doing? This is my first video in 2025. And I'm hoping that I can do more videos. That's always been a goal of mine. I'm kind of bending, manipulating the book pages so they get a little bit of lift, a little bit of bend, looked a little worn in. There's also a little, what do you call this? A quill? Like the feather thingamajiggy that you would write with back in the day. I die cut that out of some matte gold cardstock. Now here's a standard A2 white card base. I have some pattern paper trimmed. This is a new pack of pattern paper. I just recently bought several 12 by 12. Some of my most favorite pattern paper is by Pinkfresh Studio. And I love the 12 by 12 and they were having a sale. I got this so cheap, like, I don't know, I want to say $2 or $4 for a pack of 12 and I bought like several packs of 12, more paper than I need, but I love to use it. I love to use it on envelopes, and I like the larger size of the patterns. I'll have it linked in my description. I don't think it's available at Pinkfresh Studio anymore, but I'll have this style, the name of it, linked in my description. So if you want to shop for that pattern. Okay, then a little bit of glue right down the center. Would that be the binding? Right there. So it just kind of like glues in the center, but lifts on the edges. And then now for a sentiment, pulling out an oldie, but a goodie. This is called Sentiment Editions 2 by J.J. Bolton, and I love that scripty font on it. It's like a real drawn out scripty. And I'm going to emboss this in gold on some Shimmer Vellum. Okay, so I prepped the vellum with the powder tool, inked it up with Versamark ink, pouring on some gold embossing powder, and then I'm going to heat this with a heat gun, and it's going to be just fancy schmancy gold embossing on Shimmer Vellum. And I thought this would be a nice touch because the vellum, you know, doesn't cover up the design, but it gives you something to emboss a sentiment on. I'm going to use the coordinating die for this hello. Take it off camera. I'll run it through the die cutting machine. And then now here's the thing about vellum. You have to be very strategic with how you put this on your project because, you know, the adhesive can't show. So I put some teeny slivers of foam tape, tried to hide it behind the gold embossing letters. Just 3 strips. It's not going to be heavily adhered. It's going to be just lightly, and I like that it just kind of lifts up like so. A little bit of foam tape on that quill, kind of tucking it in right there so you get a gold quill and a gold embossed sentiment. And this card is finished. I love how this turns out. It's like a secret garden card. It's like a secret garden book on a card. Perfect for a book lover. Gonna do one more using the flower stencil, or I should say open book floral stencil. So I die cut the book just with white cardstock, and here's the floral stencil. So it's kind of a layering. It's only 2 stencils, but it actually has 4 different layers. Okay, so holding it down with Post-it tape, and I'm going to start with the florals. I'm going to do a mixture of colors. I'm using Concord 9th inks here, starting with Honeysuckle, and I just wanted to bring in as much color as I can. You certainly don't have to make this, you know, each bloom its own color. You could do 1 stencil, 1 color. You know what I mean? Make it really easy. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of videos by Waffle Flower showing different versions using this stencil. So make sure and check that out for more inspiration because you can get a lot of different looks even though you're using the same floral stencil, depending on the colors that you choose. So here I started with Honeysuckle, a little bit of Grapefruit, a little Buttercup for yellow, and then back to Grapefruit for this little cluster down here on the bottom left. And just a light wash because we're going to do another layer that's going to give more detail. So that was the first. And the stencils are labeled, so it tells you what you're blending. Like it says medium ink or dark tone. So you know when to blend light, when to blend dark. It's very helpful. So this is the dark shading on the bloom. So I just went with a darker tone. So since these were Grapefruit, now I'm adding Sorbet, and it gives you that darker tone. And I also here pulled out Sunflower on that Buttercup, and then here back to the Sorbet. And the one thing I like to do, just to give it a little pop, on some of these I pull out Poppy ink, which is this great bright red, and a little Poppy ink on the base of these blooms just really wakes it up. I did that for the Honeysuckle one as well. A little bit of Poppy will punch you in the best way. Okay, so then the next stencil is the leaves. Everyone have a good holiday and a good new year. We're still recovering. Our Christmas tree is not, all the ornaments are taken off, but the tree itself has not been removed, and I'm ready for it all to be gone. I just want a clean slate, get the mess, clutter, because with the dog hair and the cat hair and the clutter of 4 kids still living here, I like everything out. But the reality is, it looks like a bomb went off half the time. But I will tell you some fun gifts I got this year. I was very surprised. I think my daughters helped out a lot, helping my husband pick out some Christmas gifts. They got me some red. Have you seen these Adidas Samba shoes? They're like, they come in all the fun colors. Well, these are red with pink stripes and pink laces. I love them. I don't even know if I think I said I love them because I also love green and I love the baby blue ones and I love all the colors. And so they got me some red. I feel so sporty, very sporty. I've only worn them once. They're actually not super warm. With here in Minnesota, we are getting cold. So most of the time I'm wearing warm boots. But by the way, I blended the centers of the blooms with black ink. Now I'm laying on the last layering stencil, which is the background. And I'm inking that up with antique linen again. Just giving a little bit here and there to give that warm cream vintage feel. Okay, so I got the cute sneakers. Got a beautiful, beautiful red scarf. Like for winter, not like fashion. Okay, now I'm going to trim off the outer part like I did on the first card. And I'm going to die cut another binding in a nice contrasting color. Something that's in the design that ties in, but enough to be like a little pop. Okay, so I chose Parsley, a nice classic green, because I also use Parsley ink in my ink blending, so I knew that would tie together. And then I'm going to use this little scripty thingy, little paragraph, little doodle, and I'm going to just etch that right into the left pages. It's hard to get that lined up so it's not angled, like you can't really see how the lettering's going, but just going to eyeball it there. And then now see how it's pretty stark. I'm going to put it back in my die cutting machine, run it through flat, and it kind of smooths out the text a little bit, so it's there, but it's not like overpowering. Again with the gold quill. Love a gold quill in matte gold. And then now for the background, I'm using that same, got a white card base, same pattern paper from the card before, but it's double-sided. So this time I'm going to flip it over and use the pattern on the opposite side. And so taping this on the card base. Another really fun gift I got from my son. He sent it all the way from Germany. He sent a bunch of things for all of us. Very, very thoughtful. A little tub, cutest little tub of French salt. And it really tastes amazing. I sprinkle it on my egg in the morning, and you can really taste the difference. Didn't know about it. Now, if you know, you know. So yeah, if you ever get the chance to try some French salt, it's kind of fancy schmancy. Now I'm going to assemble this book pages onto my book binding. So a little bit of glue just down the center and pop this down. I love this soft, subtle color scheme going here. Now if you have a friend that loves to read, such a great card. And then for the sentiment, I'm using the Subsentiments Care. Going to use that Thinking of You. I just popped it out, put a little foam tape on the back of it, and nestle it right there along the bottom of the book. And then a little bit of foam tape on that gold quill. Nestle that in, and this card is finished. I didn't put any embellishments on. I just felt like they didn't need it. Make sure and check out the Waffle Flower January release. Some fabulous new products. Love this open book series. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.